Hey YouTube, the John Vandivier here. In my series, somewhere along the way, either in the introductory video or in the later videos, but still prior to this video, I mentioned that I was going to finish up with two videos. One would be a video on morality, and the other would be a video on nature as a worldview filter. And that would be my final step in developing the appropriate worldview. So I have decided to take these two and condense it into one video. Why have I done that? Well, because a lot of people talk about morality as though it should be a building block of your worldview. It's an integral part of your worldview. You have your sort of experience, your morality, maybe some religion, some ideology, and some properly basic fundamentals like logic and whatnot, and they all go together and they interact with data and they produce either a belief or a recommendation for an action. Well, I find a problem with this because I think morality itself is the produced belief, not the building block of your worldview, but a product of it. So I think morality is kind of the preeminent product of a worldview rather than an integral part of a worldview. And I need to bring in this nature as a filter mechanism because it filters worldviews and it allows certain to remain tenable while filtering out untenable ones. And those tenable ones then act to create morality, and the morality which is created is what I will define as what I'll call appropriate morality. Although it'll be a range, not a particular morality, it'll be a range of moralities, but there will be a minimum appropriate and a maximum appropriate morality, and there will be a range within there that's kind of acceptable or proper, or at very least justified in some manner. And that's what we're going after. We're trying to justify our beliefs here. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's start off with a thought experiment. Why don't we? This will lighten the mood. Let's talk about white lies. So, I ask you, are white lies morally permissible? And I don't care what your answer is. Your answer has nothing to do with this video, but it's good to think about, right? And that'll help you get a grip on your own worldview. But it's a good question to bring up, even though I don't care what the answer is, because the question causes us to think about two schools of thought. And this is a common debate in ethics and morality, and that is consequentialism versus categoricalism. Consequentialism, typified by the utilitarian school of thought, says something is good if the end result is good. The ends justify the means. You can think about Machiavelli. Categorical morality, typified by Immanuel Kant in the categorical imperative, says, look, it's not the ends that justify the means. It's the means, you could say, that justify the ends, or really, it's the means that justify the morality of the action. So white lies, or we could take, we could do a guy's robbing a bank, and he's got a gun. We'll go through both. So white lies, the utilitarian or the consequentialist would say the white lie is permissible if it is a white lie. And let's go ahead and define a white lie as you're intentionally lying in order to create a better good. It could be a better good for someone else, for yourself, for the group, whatever it may be. You misinform because you believe it will yield a better result than if you give them the truth. So yeah, consequentialists would say, this is good, I'm all for it. You create extra happiness, extra income, wealth, whatever it may be, whatever the utility is. The categoricalist would say, no, this is terrible because the act in and of itself is wrong. It's not about the result, the act of lying is wrong. This is the categoricalist view. And these things span religion, man. We got Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, and they are on both sides. Some say, no, you need to act a certain way because of the action. is either right or wrong, and some say no, you need to act a certain way because the result is right or wrong, and they'll justify it different ways. This spans ideology, so it's really a very, very fundamental, and it doesn't surprise me that people confuse it for a building block of a worldview, but it's not. It's actually a very, very early creation of a worldview. And so the other one is, you know, the guy's robbing the bank, he's got a gun, give me all your money, and you're there, and you got a gun. Teller says, I'm not going to give you the money, and you can tell he's about to blast 5 people, so you take him out. And the consequentialist would say, good for you. You killed 1, but you spared the 5. And the categoricalist would say, no, that's terrible. Perhaps you spared the 5, but that doesn't matter because you committed murder, and murder in and of itself is wrong. And I'm not advocating either one. I'm saying you need to make up your mind. And here's what I'll say. Nature is the worldview filter, and I'm about to explain this, that it will filter out the bad ones and leave the good ones. And this is pretty cool, and I'll explain how it works in a second. And this is my idea, but it's pretty cool because if you think about it, if you presume, and I'm not doing that, but I'm just making my assumptions clear. If you presume that nature exists within time, then you'll see that morality at the end of time and at the beginning of time, in other words, these are infinities, right? So you can't technically get there, but in other words, outside of time, you'll see an objective morality that's outside of time. And it will manifest according to nature within time. So inside time, it is a market equilibrium in the marketplace of ideas, of subjective ideas. But outside time, it's an objective principle. This is kind of like supply and demand, right? You have any good. It doesn't have to be morality. It could be my phone. And to some people, this phone's worth $1. To some people, this phone's worth $200. And supply and demand reach an equilibrium within the marketplace that says, okay, y'all have your subjective opinions, but the objective marketplace sets the value due to efficiency reasons at $25. So that's how a marketplace works with price. But there's a thing called the marketplace of ideas, and it works similarly. And it operates in social spheres. Say I got 3 friends, and we're just, talking about politics or whatever. We put our ideas out there. In other words, there's an exchange of information, just like price signals in a market. So there's an exchange of information, and then they compare it to each member of the market of ideas, compares it to their own precepts, and an equilibrium is reached. Sort of it'd be like a compromise between the Republicans and the Democrats in the House of Congress, and we know that's rare, but occasionally it happens. So how does this work with our ideologies and morality? Let me tell you. Let's presume that you can believe anything you want. You can believe, like I mentioned in another video, that you can breathe underwater, jump off a cliff, and fly like a fairy. Nature is going to give you a reality check. You remember that old phrase, reality check. Nature is going to filter your ideology out. How? Because it will cause you to cease to exist. You will no longer be a part of nature. If you jump off a 50-foot cliff, you will die, and your ideology will cease to exist because you'll be dead. As I mentioned in the other video, this is speaking to the human condition. This is a appropriate worldview for humans. I'm not referring to spiritual ideas. So if you believe in a God that says if you jump off a 50-foot cliff and die, I'll give you eternal life, fine, and maybe you're right. Actually, I can completely disprove that, but that's for a comparative religion section, which is a few videos off. But for the sake of this video, fine, maybe you're right. But as far as in a finite, natural, human existence, your ideology will have been filtered out. Do you see that? if you still live, you will not be living a human life. You'll be a spirit person, or maybe you'll get reincarnated as a cow or something. And so this marketplace of ideas is much more dynamic than simply a yes-no function. It is a yes-no function. It does absolutely eliminate some, and it funnels that way. But it's more dynamic than that. Just like a regular marketplace, if you know how they work, a marketplace does not just say, yes, I want to buy this for $50, yes or no. It says that, but it also implies numerous other things. If it sets it at $25, like I said it a while ago, and I have $50, well, now we don't just know I can buy it, yes or no, but in fact I can buy two. So there's multiple signals going on. Let me tell you how this plays out. In the long run, truth wins. In the long run, truth wins. What does that mean? Just like there's an objective price for the phone, and the objective price is the efficient price for the economy, and being the efficient price for the economy, it will attract suppliers and demanders to that equilibrium. Similarly, this will occur with any idea, as long as you are in an environment with free exchange of information. You see what I'm saying? Because the free exchange of information is like the free exchange of money. In other words, if it's socialism, supply and demand don't hold. It's whatever the government says. Similarly, if you have socialism of the media, socialism of the information structures in a country, people are not going to come to efficient conclusions. They're going to come to whatever the education system dictates, whatever the government propaganda dictates. But presuming free information, the truth will be the natural equilibrium because it's the efficient thing to do. Because if you don't operate by the truth, you're operating by poor signals. Poor signals yield poor results. Poor signals yield poor results. If I think that a taco at Taco Bell is $1.50, and I go there with $1 because I'm sorry, I said that wrong. If I go to Taco Bell, I think a taco is $1.50, and I go there with $1.50. Okay, I'm on track. And I go there with $1.50, and it's $2. You see how I had somehow received a bad signal, and it yielded an inefficiency. It yielded an inefficiency because I don't get my taco. Now I'm pissed off. I'm hungry. Everything's inefficient, right? No transaction occurred. No sale for them. No purchase for me. We're all upset because of a misinformation. All right, I'm getting texted. I'll deal with that later. So this occurs economically, but it also occurs in other ways. Let's say, let's talk about friendship. If I'm under the impression that you're my friend because you have communicated a misinformation to me that you're my friend, and I'm depending on you for something, and then I depend on you and you're not there, well, I'm screwed, and that's an inefficiency in a social situation. And that occurred because there was a lack of truth. And so this lack of truth will cause inefficiencies. In some cases, it completely filters it out and you die. In other cases, it causes inefficiencies and you slow. And what this will do, as for the ideology as a whole, all people who hold that ideology will be decreased in the population. You can see this because silly ideologies get filtered out by a slow process. If they're really silly, it's immediate and you die or something. But if it's moderately silly and moderately true, it's a slow fade out. Something like, Greek polytheism was prominent for a while and it slowly faded out because, it had some cute ideas in it, but it was ultimately untrue. And so, actually, this has a pretty cool implication. If you look at the ideologies around the world right now, in their present forms, I would say that these ideologies that presently exist have a higher correlation to the truth, the objective truth, than the previous ideologies that existed. And that would be a cool study and a cool way to test my hypothesis. So this is not some untestable theory. This is quite testable. And I guess my time's about up, and we'll do some comparative religion and some other videos. Take care, YouTube.